call to order the May 3rd Planning Commission meeting for the City of Cloverdale. Okay. Again, I'm calling to order the Planning Commission meeting for May 3rd for the City of Cloverdale. The City of Cloverdale's Planning Commission welcomes you to your meetings typically on the first Tuesday of the month. And I would like to at least start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Can one of the commissioners please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Commissioner Sanders?
Sure, absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I could get a roll call.
Chair
AC, here.
Vice Chair Shanahan,
Here.
and Commissioner Hilbert,
Here.
Commissioner Sanders,
Here.
Commissioner Waggy,
Here.
and Commissioner Springler.
Here.
Let the record reflect that all commissioners are present.
Great, thank you. At this time, I'd like to open it up for public comment to any person wishing to speak to the Planning Commission on an item that's not listed on the agenda, and they may do so at this time. Members of the public have a right to speak on any item of the Planning Commission agenda at the time it comes up for consideration, but this is for those items that are not on the agenda. And pursuant to the Brown Act, the Planning Commission is not allowed to consider any issues or take action upon these items that you bring up at this time. Are there any public comments?
There are not, no one is raising their hand at this time, and there are no members of the public out there.
Perfect.
Chair, we might want to ask about declaration of conflict of interest.
Sure, I was going to get to that
Okay.
before we got down to the public section. I didn't think we had that at the moment.
Gotcha.
But just going into the consent calendar, we have one item on the consent calendar. Please make note that all items on the consent calendar will be considered together as one action item for the Planning Commission unless any commissioner or member of the public requests that this item be removed or considered separately. Are there any members of the commission or public that would like to remove any consent items for discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar? Or any hands up in the public for the consent calendar?
No one is raising their hand.
Perfect. Can I get a motion for the consent calendar?
Sure, I'll move to, we approve the consent.
And we have a second from Hoverts, Commissioner Hoverts. So from Vice Chair Shanahan, and then a second from Hoverts.
Thank you, Chair.
Can I get a vote?
Commissioner Springler,
Aye.
Commissioner Waggy. Aye. Commissioner Sanders,
Aye.
Commissioner Hilberts,
Aye.
Commissioner Shanahan,
Aye.
and Chair AC.
Aye. Our next item, we're coming up onto the public hearing, and I want to first ask the commission if there's anyone who has a need to recuse themselves from this item or any conflict.
I'll recuse myself.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And to do so, does she need to leave the dais or?
Yes.
Oh, there could be, I'd like to leave the door open to possibly bid on this project.
To leave the door to possibly bid on the project?
On the project that,
Okay.
is that,
So, yeah, you should
Sorry.
step down from the dais.
It just means we need to leave. During this discussion of this item, you'll
Okay.
have to leave.
Yeah, and we'll call you back when we're,
I shall return.
Perfect. Moving forward, we're first handling item D1, which is the Precise Development Plan and Design Review, PDDR 032-2019, for a 33-lot, single-family residential subdivision known as Vista Oaks, previously known as Vista View Subdivision.
Chair, so we have a couple of presenters on this. We're going to start with Rafael Miranda, our planner here at the city, who's going to kind of give us a little background on the project, which has been around for a number of years. And then we're going to turn it over to Casey Clement from Thompson Development, who's prepared a PowerPoint to walk us through the project. And just before we begin, I'd like to introduce Mike Maloney, our new city clerk, who just started yesterday, and we've already got him up here doing a planning commission. So thank you, Mike. Okay, so I'll turn it over to Rafael.
Thanks, Kevin. So as the agenda states, and as the chair mentioned, this item is a public hearing for precise development plan and design review for the Vista Oaks subdivision. Next slide, please. I'll just also mention at your places, I distributed revised resolution. We just took out one condition number 100 from the original, which called for a traffic study. But as I'll explain, that part was already adopted and approved during the preliminary development plan for this project. And then also at your places was a correspondence received by email and then forwarded to you earlier was 2 letters from members of the public. So this is the project site. Again, so in 2018, there was a tentative map approved along with the preliminary development plan and a general plan amendment to amend the general plan designation of the site from rural residential to low-density residential, and the planned development, which you see on the right, the pink section is essentially the project site and the zoning for planned development. Yeah, next slide when you get a chance. So the project history goes into much greater detail in the staff report, but here's some of the main highlights. As Kevin mentioned, the project has essentially been around in various phases since 2005. And
I think we're on slide 3.
just a couple. One more. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, May 2006, the precise development plan, design review, and tentative map was approved for a 19-lot subdivision in the same project site. The tentative map ultimately expired in 2017, and the applicant submitted a new plan in 2018 for this 33-lot subdivision. And so in 2018, the tentative map for the 33-lot subdivision, the preliminary development plan, and the general plan and map amendment, like I just mentioned, was approved by the city council. And along with that was the environmental part, like I mentioned about the traffic part. The environmental portion was also approved. Excuse me, on that night, the city council adopted the mitigated negative declaration and initial study, which also included the mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the 33 lots that was specifically prepared for this project. And those mitigation measures have been included in the conditions of approval should the project be approved tonight. Next slide, please. So this is again the project site and some of the requested entitlements. What we just covered is what has happened previously with previous iterations of the project, and then I just mentioned in 2018 was the preliminary and general plan amendment. And tonight we are here for the precise development plan, which is just a little more focused review of the actual location of the uses. This is just houses, maybe in more of mixed use development, and, getting into industrial or commercial. There might be more of things and issues to look at, but I'm not saying there's not here. But this is just residential, so essentially the use is all one. And configuration of the parcels, and then design of public improvements. And the design review, which you're familiar with, we'll be going through tonight, but the design review's intent is to provide high-quality design and well-built and maintained buildings, landscaping and public amenities in order to stimulate the relationship between the appearance of buildings and structures. Next slide, please. So the next presenter from the applicant's team, they'll be walking you through the architecture, specifically the designs of the houses and colors and landscaping. As you go through that, kind of think of these are some of the things once we get, once they finish up their presentation and bring it back to the commission for your deliberation. These are some of the topics that for your consideration. Again, this is we're here for tonight for the design review and the precise development plan, so this is kind of what our scope of parameters are. Next slide, please. And with that, really, and together with the findings in the staff report that talk about the conformance with the general plan, the zoning, staff would recommend that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution recommending to the approval of the City Council the precise development plan and design review of the Vista subdivision, and the resolution as amended, of course. And staff is here to take any questions if you have any. But yeah, like I said, the next presenter from the applicant team will walk you through the design of the houses and landscaping.
Does any commissioner have a question for the staff before we go to the next presenter? Any question?
Is it green or is it red?
Yeah, turn it on.
There we go. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Casey Clement, and I'd like to start by thanking staff for all of their hard work on this over the years. So I am a development manager with Thompson Development, and our parent company, Thompson Builders, is a large-scale general contractor based in Marin. Over the last 32 years, we've built many recognizable public works projects in Northern California. Our bread and butter is building public projects like schools, bridges, and libraries. And we also have a private development arm, of which I'm the director. Through this arm, we design, entitle, and build a handful of small, boutique residential projects in Marin and Sonoma counties. We are not production home builders. It's our goal to design and develop bespoke communities that are specifically tailored to each of the towns in which we build. An essential part of that process is building a team of local design professionals to help develop and execute a vision for each community. So I'd like to introduce you to our team that's here tonight. Polsky Pearlstein Architects designed the homes for this project, and we're joined by the principal architect, Jared Polsky, and project architect, Laura Van Omberg. Kevin Doble is here with Laco Civil Engineering. Our homegrown Cloverdale realtors and market consultants, Alyssa Marash and Marshall Kelly, are here tonight as well. Next slide, please. Sorry about that. Our landscape architect, Rob Cox, is actually out of the country right now, so I'll be speaking on his behalf. Slide, please. The project site is a 42-acre hillside property just north of downtown Cloverdale. There's an existing fire road that connects North Cloverdale Boulevard up and over the hill to the existing Vista View Road. And there are 7 existing pre-graded building pads that were graded out before we bought the site back in 2003. Next slide, please. This project is very well known by city staff as it was thoroughly vetted at several neighborhood meetings, 2 planning commission hearings, and a city council hearing in 2016 to 2018. A tentative map and precise development plan have been approved for a 33-home community, and today we're asking you to consider the design review application, namely the architecture and overall feel of the development and where the homes are placed on the site. Before we talk about the design review issues, though, I'd like to quickly touch on the main issues that were discussed during the tentative map review, and then discuss how they were addressed in the conditions of approval. Next slide, please. 3 of the main issues that were brought up the last go-around were site stability, visual impact, and the private open space easement, among others. Next slide. There were 7 main landslide areas identified in the geotechnical investigation, and before any development may occur at the site, we'll need to spend close to $2 million on landslide repair. During tentative map review, 2 condition of approvals were added to the resolution, which require a bond in the amount of $10 to $15 million to be put in place by the developer and then maintained by the HOA for a period of 10 years. We don't anticipate this money being needed, but it will act as a safeguard to ensure that if additional landslide repair is needed, a fund will already be in place. In addition, landslide repair must be implemented and signed off on by a third-party geotechnical engineer chosen by the city before any vertical construction can occur. And then next, I'd like to invite Kevin to talk about how the water will be managed.
Next slide, please. Good evening, Commissioners. Kevin Doble with Laco Associates. It's nice to see you in person for once. Here over the last couple of years, we've been in Zoom land. I'm just going to briefly touch on some of the items we discussed in the last couple of hearings that we had. And just to give you some context, what we're talking about is related to water runoff management at the site. We are planning to implement several elements of low-impact development. We will be implementing interceptor trees, vegetated buffer strips, rain gardens. We'll be doing a disconnected downspout technique and bioretention areas. Next slide, please. Interceptor trees are very beneficial, so there will be some tree removal on the site. Trees will also be strategically replaced and placed on the site to allow the tree canopies to actually dissipate the rainfall and then allow the trees to bring water up from the ground into the trees. This is a measure that actually does a lot to reduce increase in runoff from a project site. Next slide, please. Vegetated buffer strips you'll see around the site. These buffer strips are not only attractive to landscaping, but they also provide a filtration of the stormwater off of paved surfaces. Next slide, please. Disconnecting the downspouts is a very economical and easy technique. What this allows you to do is take the rainwater leaders, instead of putting them directly into a storm drain pipe system, it allows them to come out of the building onto the ground, filter through landscape for a certain distance before it goes into the storm drain system. This filters pollutants from the roof and the hardscape of the roof. Next slide, please. And probably the most important features of stormwater management on this project are going to be the bioretention areas, the roadside bioretention areas, and the rain gardens. The precise development plan shows several areas where these are located. Primarily, the most beneficial would be of the roadside bioretention areas that are located along Shannon Drive. These bioretention areas are significant, but they're also attractive. They're meant to hold runoff for a period of time, let it infiltrate into the ground. They are also features that require long-term maintenance and management. So there will be a maintenance agreement with the city, and the HOA will be responsible for doing annual maintenance and monitoring of these facilities. Next slide, please. Sorry, go back one. Before I conclude, I just want to mention one more thing about stormwater. We understand and we've analyzed this site quite a bit over the years. We recognize that in 2003 there was some grading that occurred up at the property. We also recognize, and we've heard from some of the adjoining property owners, that there is runoff from those graded areas that may be impacting them. It's important to note that we intend and have begun analyzing those areas of concern, and we believe through the course of doing this development, putting in these various low-impact development features, but also storing the increase in runoff from the site before releasing it will allow for us to really, I think, address that issue for the concerned neighbors. Thank you. I'll bring Casey back. I'm also available for questions at the end of the presentation, so thank you.
Next slide, please. So another issue that was addressed at great length during the last go-around was the visibility. Because Cloverdale has a hillside ordinance that says that no new development may be visible from the valley floor, it was important to screen any structures that would be visible. So the city hired a third-party consultant to conduct a study from two different viewpoints. The first, viewpoint one, is across from the Vineyard Valley Inn, and then the second is across from the high school baseball diamond. Next slide, please. Oh, there we go. So here is from looking at the site from viewpoint one, and this is current conditions, no project. Slide, please. And then, one more time, and a second. So as you can see, as originally proposed back in 2016, a few of the roof lines were visible. So we had to go back and revisit the landscape plan slide, and one more time. And in the landscape plan, we added quite a few additional trees that are shown here as red circles. And then the visibility plan or study was updated. Next slide, please. So as you can see, those roof lines are screened by these trees. Next slide. So this is viewpoint 2, looking up at the hill, no project. Next slide. And this is viewpoint 2 with the screening added. Next slide, please. So also during tentative map review, the planning commissioners wanted to make sure that no additional development would be proposed on this site. So a condition of approval was included that required that a private open space easement be recorded over the 26 acres of property that are shown here shaded in yellow. The land is pretty steeply graded, so it doesn't have a lot of utility, but it does ensure that, you know, no additional development application could ever be processed at the site. Next slide, please. So the current fire road is serving as kind of pedestrian access and a hiking trail for some of our neighbors, kind of informally. And so we'd like to make sure that that access is maintained. So a public access easement will be formally recorded over the future, spine of the subdivision, and then also up over the paved fire road as well. Next slide, please. An HOA will be established to ensure proper management of the community over time, and a budget will be prepared that's approved by the Department of Real Estate to ensure that it includes ample reserves in order to keep the subdivision in really great shape and also maintain fire insurance and defensible space with our neighbors, et cetera. Next slide, please. So this is just showing the section of the draft CCNRs that includes language to make sure that that defensible space with our neighbors is maintained. So it's important to point out that, as many of you know, this property is inside of the wildland-urban interface, which we'll call a WUI. So it's really important for our neighbors, for this project site, that we keep fire safety at the top of mind. Next slide, please. So with that in mind, here's the location of the emergency vehicle access gate. So on the far left, you kind of see the end of the cul-de-sac there. And then there's a private drive that runs up to access the last two houses. And then at the end, there will be a gate. And on the right here is actually a photo that was provided to us by the fire department, which is really helpful, so we know exactly what they want to see. So it provides access for fire trucks and pedestrians, but there won't be any through access up over to the existing Vista View Drive. Next slide, please. So now that we've talked about all that, I'd like to shift to talk about today's topic, the design review for the 32 homes. Slide, please. So I should point out that while 33 home sites were approved in the tentative map, today you're considering the design of 32 homes. Lot 33 is shown here with the green star. It's not contiguous to the community and is actually accessed off of Vista View Drive. So this home will be coming back to your commission under a separate design review application. Next slide, please. Our design team is led by our architects Jared Polsky and Laura Van Omberg. They have designed an attractive community which will seamlessly blend into the existing development fabric of Cloverdale. So I'd like to ask Jared to share a little bit about his process.
Good evening. My name is Jared Polsky. I'm here from Polsky Pearlstein Architect with my associate Laura Van Amberg. We're a 10-person architecture firm based in Larkspur, and most of our work involves the design of custom homes in Marin and Sonoma and Napa. And we were asked to take a look at this beautiful wooded site and design a collection of homes that would complement the existing architecture in Cloverdale and it represents its rural roots. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Oh, let's go back one. We toured Cloverdale with Alyssa Morash and Casey Clement, and we got a sense for the charming nature of your town. We visited Joaquin Espinoza at the Cloverdale Museum and compiled a photo booklet of houses throughout Cloverdale. You're seeing a smattering of them here. And these are some of the examples. Some included the historic homes, as well as homes from some of the subdivisions. Our design inspirations are simple gabled farmhouses. Next slide, please. Because of the site, the topography, the wide variation in site shapes and sizes, and the lovely mature trees, we ended up with 11 very different house plans, each suited to the specific site. And for a 32-lot subdivision, that's a pretty high number of unique floor plans relative to the number of lots, especially compared to some of the other subdivisions. Next slide, please. You can see that these are the various types of homes. There are some floor plans. Next slide, please. And I think in your booklet you see that we have floor plans. We have every floor plan that we've developed has a large, spacious great room with a kitchen, a dining room, and a family room. And except for the Scheme E houses, every great room has a vaulted ceiling. Next slide, please. All the great rooms open up to the outside. Every house has at least 3 bedrooms, and some have 4, and even a number have a planned den and 5th bedroom. The houses all share the simple, clean, understated farmhouse aesthetic. Next slide, please. Next slide. They vary by floor plan and form in response to the specific characteristics of each site. They also vary by color and material selections. And in addition to the 11 unique types, we've also proposed 5 unique exterior treatments to further increase the diversity of housing stock in the development. Next slide, please. We included a white version, like many traditional farmhouses, and have also included some darker, more organic colors to blend in well with the wooded environment. The variations in form, materials, and colors were all done to avoid creating kind of a cookie cutter development. All the houses, next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. All the houses will follow fire-resistant construction strategies mandated in the WUI requirements, as Casey mentioned. All will have energy-conscious features, including high levels of insulation, all electric appliances, and a solar upgrade option for all the homeowners. And I'm here to answer any questions if you like. Thank you.
So the landscape architect, will you go back one for me? The landscape architect is unable to join us tonight, so I'm going to attempt to talk about his design process. So the landscape design for this particular project was a unique challenge because the project is located in a WUI, and so keeping in conformance with strict WUI guidelines and also planting as many new trees as possible required a really delicate balance. First, the landscape architect used a palette of native drought-tolerant trees and shrubs and placed them in an organic way in order to match the woodland setting. The plants were placed in such a way to mimic the haphazard design of Mother Nature while also respecting the required setbacks from structures to ensure fire safety. Slide, please. And here's a list of some of the water and energy conservation measures we'll be implementing. The landscaping plan includes native drought-tolerant plants, and though Cloverdale does not currently allow for gray water systems, the homes will be plumbed in such a way that will allow for easy conversions should Cloverdale allow these water-saving systems in the future. In addition, all appliances will be electric, and a solar option will be made available to all of our homeowners. We understand that Cloverdale is in a drought, as is the whole state, and that the city has strict guidelines in place governing when and if new connections may be established. And it's important to point out that we are still in the planning stages of this project, so we're at least 12 to 18 months away from any construction actually starting. Next slide. And finally, I thought I would just share a summary of the estimated development impact fees for this project. They've gone up pretty substantially in the last 3 years since the tentative map was approved. And I know that there's been a lot of, that the school impact fee was recently increased and that that's a big issue for the city. So I just thought I'd point out that this project will, contribute close to $1.7 million in much-needed funds for necessary services like schools and parks and emergency services to the city. And with that, I'll wrap it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions or any other presentation or any other questions from the commissioners?
That's it for the presentations.
For the presentation portion. Do the commissioners have any questions for either Raphael or actually for the design group?
I do.
Okay, perfect.
A couple. One is, can you talk a little bit about the disconnect of the downspouts, just how that works? And the other, probably for the landscape folks, with all these new trees being planted, what provisions are being made for irrigation?
I can speak to the downspout disconnection. So the city adopted, I think it was in 2014, the low-impact development guidelines. They actually require the disconnection of downspouts in order to get credit for putting...
Recording in progress.
Oh, okay. We're being recorded. Really, and I want to make sure I answer your question. So are you wondering how the mechanics of the disconnection works? Okay,
Right.
Great. So the simplest way to describe it is the water runs off from the roof into gutters, and then every so often there is a downspout that comes down the side of the building. That downspout outlets onto a splash block, which is usually a couple of feet outside the footprint of the building. Traditionally, or prior to low-impact development, those downspouts were often just put directly into hard pipes and taken to the storm drain system. So disconnecting the downspouts is a way of filtering the water before it gets into the storm drain system, and we do that through the landscaping areas adjacent to the building. I hope that answers your question.
So as for the irrigation, I know that no trees are being planted in kind of the wildland area. So new trees are only being planted in, just around, we're in the development area so that they can be established by drip irrigation. Yeah.
Any other questions from the commission?
Are these houses market rate? And if so, what's the situation with in lieu of fees and things like that?
So the city has an inclusionary housing policy. I think it's 15%. The intention is to offer all of these as market rate and pay the in lieu fee. Maybe you guys can speak to how much that will be.
Yes, it's the square footage cost for the fee. We really are in the process. We need to update that. It's been a few years. This is to fulfill their affordable housing requirements. So it's just, Casey had put up the chart with all the fees. That would be another fee that would be paid to the city that we use to help fund affordable housing projects in town. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, Commissioner Waggy, but
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Okay.
Because it was mentioned in one of the documents, but the other was, and it wasn't really fleshed out, so I'm curious, what's the magnitude of the fee? And where does the money go?
The fee is based, again, on the square footage, so I don't know off the top of my head, I can get you that information, but it's not insignificant. It's gonna be, $15,000 a house, somewhere in that range. So, and again, we do need to update that. It's from 2018, so that's on the list in the budget to update.
How does that impact the marketability of the homes?
So for the economics of the project, you mean? Yeah, I mean, it's tricky.
Big chunk of money then.
Yeah, it's tricky. And with development impact fees as well, the truth is that it typically gets passed along to the home buyers, I would say. Yeah. But it's also very standard in the Bay Area, so.
No, I understand that. I just wonder about, in your marketing studies, what that does to the marketability of the structures of the homes.
Any other questions from the commission before I go to the public? I had a couple one, you're putting trees in there. Those are heritage-sized trees you're going to be planting off the start, or are those a smaller size?
I've got the plans, I can take a look, but they won't all be huge trees. Do you guys know I can look at the plans. Maybe 15-gallon trees?
I'd recommend a heritage size because we're really protective of the screening of those on that hillside is one of my recommendations.
Oh, the screening trees. Yeah, if you give me a minute, I can take a look at the plans.
The screening, we did address that those would be larger trees when we did this originally.
That does make sense, though, to make those a little larger, yeah.
We did take care of that in the, I think, 2019, 2018 meeting.
And then a couple questions for Kevin and the staff. You mentioned the HOA and the city will have a relationship about landscape management. What part will the city play in that?
We don't typically play a part in HOAs. I'm not sure what you were referring to, Casey. I mean, I think it's more of an assurance from them that there'll be an HOA in place that's fully funded to help maintain, this large private open space, as well as the drainage features that do require maintenance, and the road is private, I believe, too. So? Again, I think it's more of an assurance from the developer that there'll be a mechanism to take care of those things, and the city would not be obligated to do so. Is that?
Right, yeah, so in California, the Bureau of Real Estate requires that anytime you establish an HOA, you have to present a budget, like a super detailed budget with a, ton of reserves, just to make sure, it's just to, ensure that this will be well maintained over the years. And also, I think it's in the conditions of approval that the city planning staff will review the CC&Rs and get to sign off on those before they're recorded to make sure that they include all of the requirements as set forth in the conditions of approval.
And is it built in there, maybe the staging of, you were talking about some landscape management to prevent the erosion control, and you had a large erosion control work that was going to be done. At what stage is that being done? Before any development? And how is the city coordinating that or monitoring that?
So that will, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but that'll all be done as a part of the grading permit package. So in the working level drawings, all of that will get down to the nitty gritty, and I'm sure that there will be several back and forths with the Department of Public Works to make sure that we've got it just right.
Yeah, there's a condition that all the slides need to be fully mitigated prior to any construction. So that's a big upfront cost for this project. And that would be reviewed by our Public Works engineer. And so.
And last question for you, Kevin. They're offering 22 acres of open space. Now, a lot of it's unusable because it's so steep. but there is some on the west side that could potentially be used for hiking or dog park or something of that nature. Has the city thought of looking and doing a study about what to use, or is there potential for using the open space, even if it's a simple study by staff?
Well, what's currently being proposed is as private open space, and so there wouldn't be, yeah.
What if the city was the private?
Did we end up putting the, yeah.
Looking for it.
We kind of had the same sort of open-ended agreement with the Baumgartner project, where they were putting that 7 acres, and it wasn't a committal by them, but it was also kind of a way to keep the door open so that if the city could come in later and potentially provide trails and access. I don't know, Casey, if you have any comment on that, whether that's the preference of this developer or not. As it is now, we would not be on the hook to maintain any of it, which is appealing to the city. I mean, not to be short-sighted, but, we're so short-staffed. So the idea of them taking care of it is appealing to us. But if they could take care of it and be open, maybe that's something we could talk about with them.
Yeah, I would just, because we kind of chit-chatted about this a little bit, and I think that the owner would be open to the idea of like dedicating some of the land to the city if it's got access off of a public right-of-way, and I don't see why there would be any issue with that, because there's really no utility for the homeowners. But insofar as putting public access over the private lands, I think that gets tricky when it comes to liability and liability for the homeowners association.
There is a condition. I don't know if you saw number
Oh, there is.
26.
What does
Yeah,
it
it
say?
says, property owner shall work with the city to establish public open space easement allowing public access through the oak woodland on the western portion of the property.
Okay, yeah,
That's number 26.
interesting. Well, if that's in there, I mean,
Well, yeah,
yeah. Oh, is that the resolution that's not been passed, or is that the resolution for the tentative map?
I think it's in both.
Yeah. I imagined it was in both. Most of these were from the last one as well, but it's in this resolution that's recommending to be approval for the city council.
Well, yeah, and if it was in the tentative map resolution, that's a done deal, so yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I walked it, it was about the only spot you could put it.
I had a question on the landscaping around the homes. You're showing us the trees and everything, but are you doing any additional planting around the homes due to fire, or are you guys leaving them bare with just grass?
So there is some ground cover, but it's away from the home. So if you take a look at the landscape plans, can you pull up my presentation? Okay. It's towards the end. Well, not towards the, yeah, maybe 50. Or, yeah, 35. Yeah. Keep going. We're looking for the landscape plans. There we go. So the big circles are trees. That's the easiest way to put it. And then the smaller circles are, bushes and trees. But it was really important to the landscape architect, and also in order to get, have this application deemed complete, that there is a defensible setback. So it's not as densely planted maybe as something that wasn't in a wildland urban interface. I think that's the answer. But there's not intention to like plant a bunch of sod or anything like that. It's meant to be very natural looking and maintained to look, like it's in a woodland setting.
I have one last question. Has any discussion been made or any thought about partnering to bring in a cellular repeater. I saw the street lights going up and down there, but to add some cellular repeaters on that peak might benefit the entire city.
You know, I don't know what that means. Maybe you can educate me. I don't know what that
Have these
means.
repeaters, they go on top of street lights, or you can, and a lot of cellular companies are looking for locations to put these. And working with a developer like yourself might provide the opportunity for them to put these repeaters up there, which will benefit our cellular service.
Interesting.
You're talking about the 5G cellular,
That's going beyond me, the 5G stuff, but I just know that they do build repeaters that you can, they run them up and down streets of normal cities, but because of the way our city is laid out, it's tough to get a good signal in our city because of the hillsides, but putting them on the hillside, which is very rare to have a street light or something, can provide an opportunity to bounce a signal down into our city. Just saying.
Yeah, and be good for the homeowners, too. That's a good point.
I have a question. With the landslide mitigation and maintaining the slope stabilities, my question is, does your company have experience with this? Or is this a new project?
Yeah, so Thompson Builders, we actually self-perform all of our own heavy civil project, or scope of all of our projects. And we do about $150 million in contracts a year around Northern California. And so, yeah, we're definitely very experienced at complex grading and heavy civil work.
Including landslide?
Any other questions from the commission?
I have a question. This question, I think, is for Mr. Thompson. Do we know, do you have any idea what the total damages were for the landslide that we had a few years back on Vista View on the other side of the hill?
You mean
The road erosion right up
Yeah.
near the top, about a quarter.
yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. We did get a FEMA reimbursement for that, so we did pursue, I don't know the number, though. It was, I don't want to guess, but I do know we got about 80% back from a FEMA reimbursement because it was a natural disaster that the road slid.
Was that section of the roadway, do you know, initially stabilized when it was originally developed?
No, I don't believe it was. I think it was really kind of a cowboy road that was put in and wasn't, there was no structure to it. It was just kind of AC on a hill. And that's my understanding from the
Yeah, there's
lawsuit.
no shoulder on that road. It's not properly rip-wrapped, and there's like so many issues with it if you're doing that steep of a slope. I cannot believe that I think they paved a dirt road.
Yeah.
Because I hike it every day.
Yeah, actually, I have spent a fair amount of time in that ditch also. That was my question. Thank you.
I have one last question. On the fire exits for that development, there is the exit off of Cloverdale Boulevard, which we know. And then the other one, can you talk about the other one that they would be able to exit out? Is there-
Closest to the restaurant?
No,
Oh.
not that one. There's another one.
Oh, the
one
fire
that connects
access.
to Vista View?
Yes.
So right now, the plan is to pave so right now it's an unpaved fire road. The plan is to pave the rest of the fire road from the end of the cul-de-sac up to where the Vista View Drive ends. And I believe the plan, Kevin, is to leave that open so that it's open to pedestrian traffic, and then put a, do not enter, no through fire access only sign at the end, which is in the conditions of approval. I think that answers the
Yeah,
question.
you showed a photo of it or a rendition of it, which is also what stemmed my thought about the cellular beacon, because you have a fire beacon on that gate.
And it's at the
Light.
top of the hill, yeah.
Yes, this picture, the one with the fire.
So that will be, my understanding is that will only be in one location.
Right.
But at the very top, where the road meets Vista View Drive, my understanding is the current plan is that it will be a paved fire road with no gate, but a sign that says no through access, fire road only. But pedestrians can access it.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? If not, I saw we had a hand online, and also those in the public can come forward and speak publicly. Any questions from the public online first, and then we'll go right to the public on person, because I saw the online raise their hand.
Thank you. We do have one caller online. They'll need to press *9 to raise their hand, but I'll go ahead and give them permission to speak now, in case they want their time.
Caller, you may unmute yourself and speak if you have a question. If not, we'll go to those in the public here in attendance. Hearing silence, we'll move to those who want to speak publicly. Please step forward. Please announce your name and clearly into the microphone, and then you may address the commission with your question.
Chair, would you like there to be
one at a time, please?
Chair, would you like there to be a 3-minute timer, or are you okay with no time?
Yes, please. And you're allowed 3 minutes to speak.
I'm Lou Tolinaro. I live at 299 Shahan. I suspect you guys got all your packets that I sent you. I want to draw your attention to the picture of the slides. Those slides occurred, I think they're under lot 33. It's going to be withdrawn. And when that happened, they graded that an access road like around September, and after the first rain, that whole thing came down, and there was about a foot of mud all the way down K Court from it. I've been living at that residence since 1986. That's the only slide I've seen in all the time. I know there's slide possibilities there, but the only time it slid is when they graded a road. And it still sits there today. Nothing has been done about it. I mean, you can still see it from my property. As far as, if you look at the east side of this hill, right on the freeway, when they spent at least 15 years mitigating that slide, if not more. So, I mean, that would eat $15 million up real quick. And if you look down at Frog Pond Road or whatever it is, by Frog Rock, whatever they call it now, they've been working on that for probably 25 years, and they're still working on it. It's a different slide, it's a different place. But this was all engineered. It was all engineers swore up and down that this wasn't going to happen, but it happened. So I'm not against them building it, but I am definitely want it done properly. And, like Constable Paula said, 1.6 million, it'll barely break even with that at some point. So it's not like there's going to be a big chunk of change for the city to spend. It's not. The original developer offered a $500,000 water tank. I think you guys got a copy of that, that they would install. I think under the circumstances with the drought and everything, that would be a good thing to put another reservoir up there. Okay. All right. One thing I don't understand, I have an ERI report here for 2020 for 20 lots, and all of a sudden we're counting on one from 2018. What did it do? One leapfrog the other? I walked personally with the planners in September 27, 2000 at this particular site over here because I was on the Economic Development Commission. And And if you would like to see this, this has got a lot more slides showing than the ones that we've seen up there. And that was for 20 lots.
I appreciate it. Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you for your time, sir.
Mr. Toninato, I would like to ask you a question before you step down. The slide that filled the street on K Court,
Yeah.
you're saying that was directly from Lot 33?
It was an access road that goes to the Lot 33. They actually graded that road that connects, I believe from what I can see, goes to Lot 33.
The actual section that slid?
Yeah. Well, it was an access road that goes to Lot 33. It comes off the main road,
Okay.
and then it circles down to Lot 33.
It also goes to another driveway there. There's another home that's been developed down there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment? Please state your name clearly, thanks.
I live on Vista View. I live right where the slide occurred 3 years ago. I'd like some assurance that construction trucks aren't going to come up our road. Any thoughts on that? Has anybody talked about that? Because that road's a mess. If you've been up that road recently, right on that S turn, it's all torn up, and all we need is a couple of, 18-ton trucks going up and down that road. So I'd like some assurance that that's not going to happen. And I would also like some assurance that that gate is actually going to be locked. That the only people who have access to that lock on that gate will be the fire department, the ambulance, and the police. I don't want any private people going up and down that road. Is there any insurance on that? Yes? Anybody know?
Yeah, I know from my experience that when they put those fire gates on, it's only for emergency service vehicles only that can access that gate. They don't allow it to be passed around to public access.
Right. And the last thing I'm concerned about is this open downspout nonsense. That's, what that hill's called locally is Slide Hill. And all we need is more water up there percolating down into the soil to bring all that stuff down. I mean, I think the downspouts should be connected to some kind of storm sewer and not allowed to run down the hill. It sounds very ecologically sound, but it sounds very structurally unsound to me. And I would like someone to look into that and make sure that's not going to be an issue. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you for your time. Any other public comment?
Chuck Levine. I also live on Vista View Drive. In regards to the downspout, the way it was described is how we have our water now. If you guys have read the newspaper, our dryers are going to get drier and our wetters are going to get wetter. So having a downspout that you can disconnect and run into the side yard is like Paul said, is a recipe for another slide. I also would like to ask, where's the water coming from that's going to go to those houses? Is it connected to the water supply on Vista View? Because our water supply is already low pressure. So I'd like to know where that water supply is coming from. And also, Vista View Drive, I was a little confused when the young lady came up and said that we were going to have a gate, but then we're going to have an area from Vista View Drive to the gate that's open. I mean, where it is now, there's a wooden gate. Is that where this proposed gate's going to be? So I need to know the answer to that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Bennett. I'm at 217 Vista View. So please forgive me. I'm a little hard of hearing, so if I'm redundant, just go ahead and maybe you can answer this for me. How many entrances will there be to these 33 homes?
There's one official entrance and one emergency entrance.
So we have Hamburger Hamlet entrance, and then we'll have some traffic I assume on Vista View.
Only in the case of an emergency.
Only in emergency. Well, I have to tell you, Vista View is in horrible shape. It cannot take additional traffic, and it would have to be blocked off because you can barely get two-way traffic in parts of Vista View. So in terms of emergency, we'd have to be part of the city planning, which, this is just my opinion, I think our timing right now, in the midst of a drought, and with the fire hazards, we just had a major fire show that was excellent. But I have concerns, I really do. My water bill, I'll probably be able to handle it forever, but it keeps going up and up. And I understand in the middle of a drought, it's affecting all of us, how many times we flush the toilet, how many plants we water, and everything. But I think all of this has to be taken into consideration if you're building 33 new homes. The other part of this is my home is where we have an emergency fire road. I don't know if you intend to continue that and have it past my home to go up to 33 homes, but it's a little precarious once you get up the hill. So I'm not sure that we've looked at all the aspects. Fire, in terms of building 33 homes up there, and the homes that are already there, and protecting us, because these fires are ravaging. They don't go easy on us. They come through like a storm. And we've been very, very fortunate. But I don't want to see us without planning for additional fire support on the hill up there. So that basically is it. Drought, fire, and I think seriously Vista View Drive itself is in need of repair. We're patching up places on the pavement ourselves. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Rick Blackman, 260 Vista View Drive. Some points that the other residents brought up is, one, between the Kings Ridge Road, when Caltrans repaired that, Vista View got beat up bad. And then we had the other slide a few years ago in front of the gentleman's house, construction traffic. So that's a main concern. I don't know where your construction, hopefully it's going to come off the boulevard, maybe. And then the other question I had, maybe that's for, was it Casey? They said there was one residence planned off Vista View. Maybe I can, after the meeting, discuss that with her. Is that right? There's one residence. I'd be concerned about that. And then the other thing, let's not let happen with the water master plan, the wine center and the old Beck place. I'd like to see Darren get involved with our master water plan when it comes to volume and pressure. Are they going to loop that down the boulevard and back up across from the Hamburger Ranch, the master water plan? I'd like to really see that volume pressure be concerned, not only have your engineers, but get Darren, who is the head water operator, involved with that. And let's make sure that the water gets addressed, pressure and volume. Let's not let that happen down at the wine center that was recently built. Let's do it right. But I'm not sure that construction, there's two construction projects off Kings Ridge Road, and the one there just beat up Vista View. I don't know if there is construction traffic going to go up and down, let's make the developer have some kind of bond to take care of the wear and tear on Vista View. So.
Thank you for your comments. Any other public comment? Not, I'll bring it back to the commission. Any response from the commission, concerns, or staff? Do you want to address any of the public concerns right offhand? I think there's a few we could address.
Well, I agree with the construction traffic off Vista View, and we can, I'm not on, right?
Oh, I guess I can.
Oh, sorry. We can do a condition of approval to recommend that to the city council. Darren has been involved a lot with along with Jay Robinson, our sewer operator, and I know Kevin Doble's done a lot of work looking at the size of the water lines and the sewer lines in that area, and there is some work that has to be done off-site to serve this project. It's been, I think, pretty thoroughly looked at. I don't know about the gate. Do you want to talk about the question about where exactly the gate is? Do you know, and the answer to that?
Yeah, Casey, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the gate is supposed to go at the end of the cul-de-sac, at the very end of the what will be the new road, Vista View Drive. There'll be a cul-de-sac. And to answer the gentleman's questions, I think where the that kind of cow gate, I guess, the wood gate right now.
Within feet of that.
My understanding is
Look
that
at the
that wood
map.
gate is more like.
Can we ask the clerk to pull the map up so that the audience can see what we're talking about, please?
Mike, if you go to, yeah, we can probably use that.
Yeah, just go to.
Slide 4, I think it is. No, well, you can see it there too.
Yeah, that'll help. If we can. While he's finding that, at least for the drought part, commission is probably remembers the water, the emergency ordinance that the city adopted last year, the year before, regarding the drought and new connections established during different phases of the drought, and those standard conditions of approval were added also, and it covers stage 1 through 5 of the drought, and what developers will have to do if they are trying to get a new water connection in stage 3 to 5. I think 1 through 2 we're allowed to.
Yeah, so in the emergency ordinance for the drought, there's different stages. We're currently in stage 4. It does not preclude development. It does have provisions when they want to hook up to the water system, depending on which stage we're in. So in stage 4, they can't install the landscaping or the turf, if there's any, and then there's some other provisions in there. And we've made a condition of approval that they're going to adhere to whatever stage we're in at the time. Now, hopefully, as Casey said, we're 2 years out or more.
That's good.
So hopefully we'll be in a better spot. But we have thought of that, so it's in there.
And so, the fire gate, my understanding is that it'll be at the end of this cul-de-sac, and and that wood gate now is essentially at the end of when that slide comes up again. There's the cul-de-sac, and then there shows like an extension that is essentially the dirt road now that will be a paved part, and that gate is, I guess, at the bottom part of that screen. The wood gate, the existing gate, is, from my understanding right now, is kind of at the bottom part of that, and then that fire gate, which you see on the right, will be installed at the cul-de-sac, if that makes sense.
So this fire road from the gate at the end of the cul-de-sac down would tie back into North Cloverdale Boulevard across from the restaurant, correct?
Yeah, that'll be Vista View Drive.
And then at the top, there would be essentially an ungated access road that's an extension off of Vista View. Right.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Hold on, we're trying to pull it up on the screen, but we keep missing it.
The one at the end.
The cul-de-sac that will be installed as
If
part
you
of
go
the
to the
project.
top of Vista View right now, there is a current gate at the end of the road past the 2 last existing homes there. And then down, down that dirt road path a little ways is where they're going to build a cul-de-sac. And that, at the end of that cul-de-sac is where you're going to see the new emergency entrance gate. But we'll pull it up here in a second. There you go.
Just leave it there, Mike.
Yeah, don't.
Okay, while we're doing that, I have another question about the gate itself. On the latch end of the gate, there's a magnetic lock. On top of the post there, it shows a emergency services beacon.
Large screen that,
Right.
don't go to the slide.
Can
Just
that be
put it on
remotely
large.
operated? Anyone?
What?
That'd be what?
I'm sorry.
Can the emergency services beacon that unlocks the gate right there, the Opticon receiver, does anybody in here happen to know if that can be operated remotely?
Rick, do you know that?
It can be. Okay, so if, in an emergency situation, man, this is for you, right? So in an emergency situation where emergency egress from this community and from the folks that live on the existing Vista View, if this can be remotely operated, then emergency services can unlock this gate and everybody can just roll right on down the hill, down to Cloverdale Boulevard.
It gives you a second escape. It also, and I was going to comment on this in my turn, but I'll just take it now just to cover your concerns, ma'am, because I'm also concerned of fire. That's a serious concern, and I want to promote as much additional fire access we can have around our city as possible. That's my passion. But in this case, even if there wasn't this development, I would ask that we try to get this road access up to that area and have that gate there, because this gives you a second access off of Vista View. It is a dangerous S-curve. There should not be vehicles and emergency vehicles trying to make it up Vista View to get to your homes when they can more easily get there from Cloverdale Boulevard up to your homes. They'll get there more quickly through this new road and through that access than they would trying to come up Vista View. And they could bring better equipment that might not be able to be currently used on your homes and your sites as it is. But I think it's an appreciation to our fire safety as a community. But that's my personal opinion.
Right. And it looks like there's also going to be a control loop there as well. So if you pull up next to it, it should unlock the gate so you can go out.
But this road, and my recommendation to pass on to staff to the developer is I do want to see zero construction access unless it's approved through the city for that specific need or use of that limited time access during construction. I think the primary 99% of construction traffic should occur off of Cloverdale Boulevard, which means we have to work from up there. And I think that's also for the benefit of the safety of the entrance of that area, where we clear that out and work through that Cloverdale Boulevard up rather than Vista View down. And I think we should reduce that because of the road was not properly built on Vista View, and I don't think it can handle that much traffic or that kind of traffic, and that's part of the reason why the erosion happened.
Can I ask if there's a plan to put a traffic light down at the end of Vista Oaks restaurant?
No, there was a traffic study. I think this is a great conversation, but I think we maybe should bring it back to kind of the design of, because, I mean, this thing's been in the works for a long time, and it's been through 3 hearings, and there's 140 conditions, and so, I mean, I appreciate all the comments, but we're trying to look
Design or not, I think the traffic access or.
No,
at
it's
least
a
the
good, it
construction of
is definitely a good
it's
comment
serious
that we should keep in there.
Any other design comments from the commission?
We can go back to the sheet that we put together to
Perfect.
talk about the design.
To highlight it?
Mike, I don't know if you could.
It's in my presentation. I think the second to the last slide, or, yeah.
So it might be hard to, we might need to switch back and forth, unfortunately, Mike.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be possible, but,
If you go to slideshow and pick from current slide, go under the slideshow where it says slideshow. Pick current slide. Any questions about I don't know if we want to go through each one individually. I mean, we could lump some of these together.
These are just like to start the conversation. I mean,
Yeah.
you saw the house models. I don't know if there's any comments about that, the colors, the landscaping, things like that.
It's really just to give you a framework, you know, you don't have, I'm not saying you have to go through each one individually, but is there anything that stuck out that you want to speak to or discuss?
Under
Go ahead.
Under site planning, does that include consideration of the slides, or is that already passed?
Well, the lots, you know, are established, but if there's if you can offer, you know, any opinion on the exact location of a certain house on a certain lot, feel free.
My concern is about the slides and handling of water. So I don't know if that comes under that topic or not, but.
There's mitigation measures for all of those. If you wanted to discuss those, they're included in the packet also.
We hit those all pretty hard in the previous life of this project to get everything we thought doing well. You know, so hopefully we're not reinventing the wheel here and going back to stage one.
No.
Yeah.
And I am sure we'll have more opportunity in the future to add some more comments down the road when we get into CCNRs and other fun stuff and everything else. Any other questions on the design from the group?
I think they did a great job there, nestling the homes in nicely, hiding them into the hillsides well. You know, those two-story homes, the way they're nestled with a second story and going into the hill, I think they did a great job of designing those, you know, and putting them on the sites they are, so, you know, giving them the best access into the home with the driveways and then having homes there, so.
Very small envelopes as well, which was nice.
I have a question about the bond, the 10-year bond. When was the amount, or how was that amount established? And do we know when that was brought up? How long ago was that?
That was an add-on condition when this subdivision got to the city council. And Kevin, I don't remember how we came up with that number, but it was based on an engineer's estimate or something. I can't remember exactly, but I do remember that was a condition that was added when the city council reviewed the subdivision, and there was a lot of concern about the slides and what would happen in the future if they were gone and a slide occurred. You know, how would that be handled? And so that's really where it came from. But the 10 million, I'm not exactly sure.
How long ago was that?
That was 2018.
4 years ago?
Yeah.
10 million isn't going to do much.
Yeah, it does seem a little low to me, too. I don't know if there's anything we could do about that tonight.
Yeah.
It's sort of up to the council, right? But
It says 10 to 15, so it could go higher.
How is that going to be determined?
it's a bond.
Well, I know, but I mean, whether it's a $10 million bond or a $15 million bond, it's at the city's discretion.
I believe we would consult with our Public Works Director or our city engineer to come up with a number that makes sense somewhere between 10 and 15 that, it's hard to know, exactly how much something like that would cost or if it's even going to occur, but I think that was some assurance that there was something in place that if something happened after they were done, building the project, if something happened, it was, some assurance that that would be there for 10 years.
Hopefully before the building permits or the grading permits or any of that are established, the city council will take a hard look at that and, sort of maybe even adjust it for inflation since 2022 or 2024 dollars, or,
If,
gonna be a whole lot, you're gonna be able to do a whole lot less with that 10 or 15 million than you could in 2018.
If the commission isn't comfortable, amending that, specifically to find some other number that I'm more comfortable with, we can just, add that a recommendation from the commission that the council revisit that condition when it's comes to their review.
Yeah, I think we'll bring that one up. We'll bring up the road on Vista View and have a condition that could be included, the truck traffic, the construction traffic.
And the size of the heritage trees.
I think
or the
maybe
size of
we'll
the replacement
we'll
trees,
ask
too.
Kevin Doble for a little bit more information about the downspouts, and, how that helps, in actually, how that helps mitigate slides, which I think is the case, even though it sounds counterintuitive, but with the LID and the holding of the water on site. I don't know if there's anything else.
Yeah, two other. One, just the city's opportunities for partnering for the open space. I think there's two ideas of open space that I'm interested in. One, some park or some public access, whether it's through a dog park, hiking park, whatever. And the other is potential land space where we could put water storage down the road. I just, even though it may not be a part of this development, I don't want to take that off the table ever when we have an opportunity. We have one hill here, and the opportunity for gravity and storage in our future condition, we should try to reserve that opportunity. And other than that, I really do appreciate your comments and about fire and drought. I also have mentioned, and I would love to recommend that they look in, and it's not part of this review, but making sure they're putting purple pipe in as well to increase, hopefully, the pressure to the whole hillside there and the residents that are nearby, and set us up for the right type of water systems we have in the future.
I do believe that there is a capital improvement project to rehabilitate an old dilapidated pump station that is on the opposite end of Vista View Drive, on the town side.
Oh, nice.
So there is an old pump station there. Not exactly sure, I don't recall how that interconnects. Rick, you might know a little more about that, maybe not, but Darren certainly would. And so I think that's in the 5-year plan. So hopefully before any building actually occurs, that pump station that would supply more pressure and volume up to the top would definitely help out. I know at Rick's house, you have almost no pressure up there, right? Yeah, at times probably zero. Yeah.
And then my last opportunity is for some kind of cellular repeater tied with the street lighting that would be running through that community. Any other recommendations from the council or commission?
No, I'd just like to have, understand more of how the disconnected downspouts, how that will really lessen rather than,
If I may, Mr. Chair. So I guess I should further define what we mean by disconnected downspouts. They're not just going to be disconnected and let run free all the way down the hillside. We actually keep the distance from the end of the downspout to the storm drain inlet 5 feet. So it's just a little strip of landscaping where it filters through. It's not an infiltration mechanism at all. The ground can be completely compacted underneath it and just have vegetation or grass or landscaping there. It's simply a filter, and it's for a very short distance.
Thank you for that explanation. Hearing no other recommendations from the commission, go back to the public if there are any further public comment to these recommendations. I agree with you, sir. Couple. Any other public comment? Is there a motion to the resolution from the commission?
before I can get into motion, I think we should really get into a little more of the fencing on the private property.
You want to continue to go through it, okay?
Yeah, do the design review. The roof lines, are we happy with that? I know we worked very hard in the previous meetings to get the trees mitigated so we didn't see them from the valley floor, and
Yeah, I
And
didn't
just
see
wanna-
any issues with the roof
I want
line.
to comment on, you guys did a great job. You know, I know that was, and changing the point of view from, did the city decided to do that?
What-
You know, the first meeting was, you had to be here. When we started this, the first view we had of the hillside was from Hillside Court above Jefferson. And that view was terrible because it looked like we could see every home that was going in there. And that's why we fought so hard to get those trees put up. And so changing the view this time was the city, it was mentioned the city did that?
Those,
The visual sense.
yeah, the visual sims.
Yeah.
It really was kind of a collaboration. We helped each other, I would say.
You did, because that was great, because, you know, just because the view that we had originally on this, I was very not happy with the whole 400 foot, and you guys remember, I'm sure. So, I just want to comment that it's great that you've mitigated that well, and, you know, we're going to have bigger trees put in there. So,
Yeah,
you know,
I appreciate that as
pushed
well.
for that.
The color scheme was a great color scheme as well. You have a very neutral setting. If you could come forward and again, just repeat your name real quickly for the record and then speak clearly into the mic. Sorry to make you come down.
On Vista View, I walk the trail that's down there. Are you aware of the noise level from the place where they were doing the trees, the lumber yard there? It's a constant noise level. Every time I've gone down there, it's going. Do you think people that buy these houses are really going to want to deal with that? That's something to think about.
No, that's something we did talk about, you know, back when this started in 2005.
Okay, come back to the public. And can you pull up that slide again with the design pieces?
Yeah, Lou Tolinaro, 299 Shahan. I would just like to ask if, rather than pull a number out of the air, why don't we consult some slide expert and get a kind of an estimate what it would cost, worst case scenario?
My understanding, they have had a study done to their repair that led them to this initial cost that was thrown out years ago. Great.
We're
I'm
going to look
about
into it and
Talking about a $10 to $15 million bond.
yes, we're going to bring that up to the council and try to get more clarification. This item will be before the council as well, and so you'll have an opportunity again to.
I mean,
Yeah,
if
we'll-
they have some solid ground to base it on, you know.
Yeah.
rather than
Understood.
just
I
throw
understand.
a number to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so to complete the design review, any other commission comment on any of the other items from under the design review, or any concerns, recommendations?
Well, we haven't really talked about fencing
Okay?
tonight, so if, ma'am, if you don't mind, can you give us a brief rundown on what types of materials and fence heights and so on and so forth are planned for this development?
I just saw it.
Fencing can be a big deal to a lot of neighbors within the development as well as outside of the development and even across the valley.
It's a thing.
I agree.
So we don't have a fencing plan yet, but that's a really good design review question. And that's something that we can prepare prior to the city council hearing with a detailed product type and size, so you can kind of see what we're thinking.
Perfect.
That was
That-
curious.
Or it could be that he's not planning fences. Because it's more of a rural feel. I have a. Mm-hmm.
Is there a plan for a fence around the open spaces as well, at all?
Just the yards and then the perimeter.
The building envelopes.
So, and while I'm here, I just thought I might add that we would fully support adding a condition that prohibits any construction traffic over Vista View Drive. We understand that road needs attention, and so we don't want the liability of it, to be honest with you. So that makes a lot of sense.
Thank you. Any other design comments or questions?
Question on the street lighting, or is that going to be LED light or halogen, or do we know?
So LED lighting and all down.
Okay. Okay.
And we do have a condition of approval for lighting to keep it.
No, I saw that, but I
Yeah.
didn't know what type, if it was going to be yellow halogen.
Yeah, I think pretty much LED is the standard at this point.
Maybe LEDs now.
Yeah, I think they went away.
Material notes, fencing within 30 feet of the individual residence utilizes an opaque wood design that emphasizes privacy and screening. Fencing is generally not provided in front yards. Fencing beyond 30 feet of the individual residence will transition to a mesh design in order to reduce fuel load for fire safety.
Big mesh.
Sorry, one more item that you might want to come up and address, Casey, and that is, we talked in the site review about the work that you all were doing to kind of open up that entrance on the Cloverdale Boulevard. Do you want to maybe speak a little bit to that? I think that's an important aspect of this site plan, is how you're trying to open up the visual, because that's a blind corner, blind entry into the development. And I think the public would like to know your intentions to resolve that.
Absolutely. So yeah, coming in and out of the current fire road, it's pretty precarious because you can't see far enough to the left or the right. So the intention is, if you go to just the very first slide, my very first slide, it's not a photorealistic rendering, but you can kind of see the intent of the grading at the entrance there. So the trees will be cleared back, the brushes and trees along that entrance, and then also a short retaining wall will be installed at a slant to be able to provide that necessary sight line. And I think that Caltrans, Kevin, took a look at this during the tentative map review, just to ensure that, that this intersection is safe for future residents. And it's not shown there, but a stop sign will be put in and a crosswalk.
Oh, and a crosswalk. Perfect. Any other?
I have one more.
Okay, perfect.
This is for our realtors, if I could get one of them. I'm just curious on your opinion of the marketability of these designs, if you can, and price points and things like that. Is this a doable project in your eyes, the way it looks?
Sure, thank you. Alyssa Morash with W Real Estate. I have worked closely with Casey and her team on the style and design. People are definitely looking for smaller homes and things that are more efficient. Definitely looking for newer homes in Cloverdale. Our stock is pretty old right now. And the interesting thing about this project is that it has a lot of marketability because it has the capacity for a lot of price ranges. So it's not going to be just necessarily terribly high-end, but it's a move-up product. So if you have a home in Vintage Meadows and you have some equity and you want to move into a new house, you can move here and you can stay in Cloverdale. And that's going to be, excuse me, really good news, because right now there's nowhere for people to move up to. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be done now.
Any other recommendations, comments, concerns from the commission? Okay, I'll go back to the public one last time. Any comments from the public? Hearing none, seeing none. Close out the item. Any one want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Horvich.
I'll second.
Second from Vice Chair Shanahan.
Thank you, Chair Hasey. Commissioner Spengler is recused herself. Commissioner Hoverts?
Actually, do we need to read out the resolution? If you could have you read out the resolution first, sorry.
Resolution number XYZ-2022, resolution of the City of Cloverdale Planning Commission recommending to the City Council approval of the precise development plan and design review allowing for construction of 33 detached single-family residents in the 42.62-acre Vista Oaks subdivision at the north end of the Vista View Drive. Do I need to read the APNs?
No, that's okay.
No.
We're good.
Can I have a vote?
Yes. Commissioner Hoverts?
Aye.
Commissioner Waggy?
Aye.
Commissioner Sanders?
Aye.
Vice Chair Shahan?
Aye.
Chair Asey?
Aye.
That passes with all ayes.
Perfect, thank you. And if we could bring back in,
Sure. Nothing. The score.
she's on her. Oh, perfect, sounds good.
I won't.
You didn't think of it?
You said started in 2005 with this one.
True.
Taking a break? Rocking and rolling here.
I'm willing to, we only have two little things
Okay.
left, the planner's
Yeah,
report
let's
and
do
the
it.
direction of the staff, but,
I was impressed with the conditions of approval.
oh, yeah, it's a ton, that's why I didn't really have many questions, you guys beat
Yes.
it apart. And then I drove it, and she was
Hey,
really well
Rick.
at addressing all
Yes.
my questions
I
up
did
front,
too,
so.
She calls me up and she says, I know you've seen it a couple times. You want to do it again?
Casey?
She said that to me.
Hey, Casey?
I didn't meet with her.
We still have, we still have an item. Yeah.
What's changed? Oh, the tree's new.
Putting palm trees in. You okay with that? Putting palm trees in.
Black oaks.
Eucalyptus.
Yeah, no way. She's gotta come back from the sawmill.
Does anyone know where she is?
She's right outside.
Oh, okay.
She said she's on her way back in.
Oh, okay.
We should make that a designated waiting spot.
A penalty box?
Yeah, go to the saloon.
Yeah, right.
I like that idea.
Get in the box.
Yeah, get in the box.
It was a bad comment.
Right.
You used to go to Acey's house.
Yeah.
Larry Mason.
Thank you. Returning with us is Commissioner Spengler, so, Spengler. moving on to the next item, we have item D, E, which is the planner's report and communications. Do we need to wait for Rafa to get back now?
Now we're fine.
Okay.
I just want to announce, and I sent the email that Commissioner Holberts did attend the League of Cities Planning Commission Academy. And Sandra, I didn't print it out just because it was 150 pages. I know you wanted some paper ones, but I emailed it to all the commissioners, the materials. And I don't know if you want to take a little time and give us a summary or if,
Yes.
Yeah.
So the one that says 00/2022 Planning Commissioners Academy Update, that's the one that I wrote on there. And the Planning Commissioners Academy was excellent. I think that we should all attend. And even if you've, like, I've already went to it, I would like to go to it again, because sometimes you hear things, but when you're in doing the projects, you actually have more questions that you could ask your cities or the individuals that are there at the academy. So anyways, one of the things that they stressed was onboarding. For a lot of cities, that's their thing. They do a lot of onboarding training. I said, oh my goodness. He goes, yes, sometimes it's a week-long session that we do just for them. So when I attended there, they went through the Planning Commission 101. They did CEQA. And also, while I was there, they had, it's called the Institute, what is it called? Institute for Local Governments. So coming back to onboarding, they have regional planning commissioner trainings. Those are for one day. And they're throughout the state, and they're going to go ahead and have one for Sonoma, Napa, Solano, and Marin counties. They don't know the site yet, but it is scheduled for July 29th. It's just one day, so I think that would be really great. But if you can't attend, I did provide you with a PDF of the training, and that's the same training that you'll have. I asked if it was okay to share it, and they said yes. So that's the one that you have. And on there, when it comes to CEQA, they talk about what is your threshold? You know, because that's one of the things that you're asking is like, when do I ask for a EIR? And then when do I use a mitigated declaration? Yes. So anyways, that information's on there. And then they went ahead and there's also on-demand webinars that I put it on there so that you can go ahead and actually see something on there, like strategies to engage your community for housing issues. They also go over the legislative updates. So you might say, why do I need to know about a bill? So I like to know about what bills are, what's going on, because before that bill is implemented, I kind of have an idea of what's going on. The city has an idea of what's going on. So if we need to cover our bases, we can do so before that bill is actually adopted. For instance, right now we have Senate Bill 897. It's the ADUs, and that one says that they're working on having the height restriction go up to 25 feet, which is 2 stories. And one of the concerns that individuals have is that, what about my neighbors that have solar panels on there, you know? But if this goes through, our hands are tied. This is it. So this is something that we might take a look at when it gets closer to it. Once you know it's going through the houses and you're at the final step, then if we need to bring it back and say, okay, what are we going to do about it at the city level, then we can. So it's good information. Now, also on the resources, on the Institute for Local Government, they have a brand new Planning Commissioner's Handbook. It's so new that they don't have it downloadable yet. They're working on it. So they'll have it as a PDF. So I put that on there. Also with the Institute of Local Governments, you can go out there and get tools for effective meetings, chairing a meeting. So they have a lot of information. And one of the things that I really liked was when they presented findings and conditions of approval. So right now for us, we have our findings that the staff provides for us. And so we're like, we don't really have to do all the work. The staff already has done that. But if there is a project that you are questioning whether you want to, oh, I'm not going to approve that project, what's your finding for it? So as the planning commissioners, you have to have your backup data to say, okay, I am not approving this project because it does not meet blah, blah, blah. So I put an example of that. And on the conditions of approval, there's also examples there that I provided, asking you who, what, when, why, and how, and having those items on your conditions of approval. So those are just a little bit of it. I do have a PDF of that, so if anybody else wants that, let me know. So that's what the Planning Commission Academy was, and I really enjoyed the networking. And I think one of the things, the last thing I want to say is they stressed, talk to your staff. Try not to bring surprises to your staff. And that's probably something that I need to work on too. So when you're asking questions, let your staff know, hey, I have this question, and that way you don't want your staff to look bad. And that's just something that they reiterated. So that is my update. Does anyone have any questions?
What is your PDF? I mean, is that something you can email, or is it?
Yes,
Kevin actually sent it out to us.
Oh, is that
So
what it
it's
was?
included, it's one of the attachments of the 4 attachments that he
Oh, I
sent.
didn't see that
And by the way, thank you so much for breaking that out. It was really well put together in your notes and very helpful, so thank you.
Did you say, I'm sorry, did you say that you, when you were there, they're planning this July
29th.
29th
They
thing?
were giving us resource information. Then I did my own research, and that's when I found out that they were having these regional meetings. I did attend one in Sacramento. It was a one-day class to
Yep.
see how that was. And it's just the 101s of planning commissioners.
But they don't have a venue for that yet?
What was that?
Do they have a venue for that one?
On
For the new one?
email, there's a link, and it'll tell you all the places that they're having the regional trainings. It's all throughout California, and the one that's coming to our area is July 29th. But there might be one that's closer by that, there's the Central Valley, if you wanted to go to Fresno or something.
We should have it in Cloverdale.
Make it happen.
Well, they haven't decided where they're going to have the one in our area yet.
A new hacienda.
It just, we did include a lot more money for planning commissioner training in the budget, and there's a budget meeting tomorrow if anyone's interested at the firehouse at 8:30, the council, and we'll be going over the budget. So I apologize for the onboarding. We do our best, but that's why we're trying to increase the money so that you guys can go to training and learn from.
Yeah, these are very helpful conferences and meetings and that. And I also have another meeting space to offer them if they get a hold
Yeah,
of them.
we
Could be
have
downtown
enough
Santa Rosa.
budget for everyone to go to the academy next year, so whoever.
When I was there, a lot of cities brought in their planning commissioners, and it was a great time for them to team build together, because you have your classes, but then you go out to dinner, and the nice thing about it is you get to meet different planning commissioners. I met a whole bunch of different ones, and it was really nice because some of the questions that we have, they have. So, it's a good time to brainstorm and just meet them.
Did they have any city staffers there?
Yes, they did. They did, yes.
Yeah, they were wearing black coats.
With targets.
They have bullseyes on
I
their
do
backs.
appreciate the questions in advance, but I understand the questions come up as you review the projects here, so that's fine. I think that's where you're at.
I think what you're saying is review the packet and ask the questions before we get up here.
Maybe do a pre-meet.
It's a lot to review, and I know everyone's very busy, so I appreciate your efforts coming here and participating and taking it seriously.
I really actually appreciate the little mini presentation that Raphael puts together for a lot of these things. It kind of upstages a lot of questions, that as you're reading through the packet, you say, I'm going to highlight this, I'm going to highlight that, I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to highlight that. And I think a lot of times, sort of everybody has the same thing. So you guys probably know already what we're going to ask. So, it's nice that
They would know more
Stage
if we
those.
pre-meet, then they would really be able to
Well,
set up questions.
Yeah, these guys, but then he pre-meets with who? 1 or 2 of us at a time. He only has, so much time anyway. He's working till midnight as it is, right? What time is it? 9 o'clock? 8:18 right now, right? So.
Well, in that sense, again, thank you for your time you spent on our behalf, and I hope to attend in the future as well. Are there any other planning report?
Well, I can
comments
just
you
give
have?
you a quick rundown. Our next meeting is June 7th. Right now, we don't have anything in the queue, but that may change. Just to let you know, Baumgartner has got a building permit for the first phase, which is the multifamily portion of it. Also, Dry Creek Rancheria, which you guys also reviewed, is seeking a building permit right now. We're going to have an update on the housing element next Wednesday at the council. Again, the budget workshop is tomorrow if anyone's interested, at the firehouse at 8:30. I want to, because one of the other things that I've been doing for the city is kind of overseeing the parks and recs, so I just want to give you a quick update on what's going on there. The restroom in the plaza is a go. We've put our deposit in on a pre-made restroom facility, and we've got a site. We've got an engineer under contract to help us with the bid packages. Going to the council next Wednesday is award of bid for 2 pickleball courts that'll be going in at Ferber Park. So I for one, love pickleball. I've been playing it. It's super fun. So anyway, I'm excited about that.
Pickled?
You got it. And then lastly, on the recreation side is we're either going to put in 1 or 2 really nice basketball courts at 2nd Street Park. And we got a grant to cover a lot of that. We wanted to put 2 in. It came in a lot higher, the engineer's estimate. So we may either scale that back or do 1 or 2. But either way, that's going to be underway this year. So a lot going on, a lot of projects being built. Sure, Bill.
Yeah.
With the federal infrastructure bill that did finally pass, is there anything there that the city is going to be able to benefit from?
Well, we did. We were awarded $3 million in water projects. One of those is some upgrades, and then part of that also is electronic read meters, which is going to cover a portion of that. And we're also working with this turnkey program. PG&E also has a subsidiary of that, which also helps pay for these electronic reader reads. I'm not saying that right, meter reads. So there is some, we have gotten some of that, $3 million, but we're in the budget for next year. We've got a decent amount of money for grant writers because we don't really have the capacity to do that on staff, but we're setting aside some money in hopes that we can actually find someone, which is another one of our big challenges, is just finding people who are available to work and want to work. So, and we did get the American Rescue Recovery, which the council has been debating on how to spend that money, and that's $2 million. We've gotten the first $1 million, then we get the second $1 million in July, I believe.
How about for roads and rehabs of city streets? And
Not for, there hasn't been any roads yet, but we are monitoring all the grants. I mean, there's a lot of discussion about all this money coming down, but some of it has come down, but it's not clear exactly, you know, where it's all going yet.
I don't think it's as disseminated on the state level. It
I
usually
don't
goes
think
from
so.
federal to state,
Yeah.
state to local, and it hasn't really cleared what they're going to do on the state level yet. Did you have an update on the Potter Valley, or I have an update, but I don't know if you have a more official update.
No, I think I'd like to hear your
Okay.
update.
Well, we've been discussing in my other life, PG&E wants to get rid of the Potter Valley project, and they've offered us to purchase it. We turned it down. The counties were looking to do a united effort, especially with the northern Sonoma County and some other counties. We're going to unite to have an effort to take that over, and that failed. But do know that PG&E has now looked to reinvest to keep it running in the interim. They've also, the state has made a verbal commitment to keeping that running until a solution can be made, and there's multiple solutions. One of them is to actually build up both Lake Sonoma and Mendocino to have a higher capacity of water yield. And then they would store more water on an annual basis in those lakes, and then they would actually pump. They'd have to build this multi-billion-dollar pump to keep that going back and forth during dry seasons, and then they would release it back to a normal flow down the Eel River. So very interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I was disheartened, and then I was like, okay, at least they're holding it back together, and there's hope. And my CEO, who's very passionate about that project, I asked him personally, I go, do I need to look at selling my home? And he said, no, I have confidence they're going to get this resolved on the state level. So just letting you all know that.
I think the caveat with them building up our reservoirs is that they actually have to keep the water in them for it to work, because if you recall, what
Yeah,
was it,
and
2019, where we were like overflowing and they released too much?
Yeah, by doing this, they would change the structure of how they would release water
Yeah.
and how much. Right now, we're at a minimal flow just to keep the salmon alive.
Right.
And it's really based upon the fish. And then this whole process would change that, where you'd see a lot more storage in those lakes.
Well, I did hear an interesting thing on one of our drought meetings about the fact that that PG&E dam is inoperable right now. It's depriving Lake Mendocino, I think they said 400 acre feet a day, which doesn't sound like a lot, but, well, yeah, for the water guy. But, I mean, so that's partly why Lake Mendocino is so low, is because that dam is not diverting, so.
Yeah, they actually
Need to fix
stopped
that.
use for a while. They actually
Yeah.
closed down service, and then they.
Is it is it operational now?
I believe they're back up and running
Okay,
again,
so
but
maybe
it
that
was
water's
closed
going.
down for a while, yeah. Any other report? If not, any direction to the staff from the Planning Commission?
I just have a question. Are we getting any closer with our water use meter thingy? Our app that we're gonna get eventually?
Well, I think you just said you were getting that grant.
I'm not sure what app you're talking
Oh,
about.
we were gonna get the little tool that we'd be able to see how much water is going into the home, the water.
Oh,
The
the-
flume.
yeah,
Like a flume?
Little flume things?
Oh, nice. I have a flume at my house. They're great.
No, I'm talking about the one for the planning
Just tell
commission.
me when the
Complete-
internet
That we're,
goes off.
that tool,
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. No, yeah, I can schedule that. That's pretty much completed, so I need to,
okay, yeah, I was just.
I'm sorry, I didn't,
Where are we gonna see it?
I couldn't remember what you were talking about, so.
I can't remember what you called it.
Flume.
No, it's a calculator that some engineers put together for us where we can use to evaluate
Water
residential projects on the effects of our capacity at the sewer and water plant.
Yeah, so when we get hit with a question like tonight,
Like, are you ready?
yeah, we're ready, 33 homes and we got this, we're fine.
All those are gonna be on a case-by-case basis
When they're
anyway,
ready to
right?
turn
'Cause we're
on.
in phase 4.
Well,
It depends on when they're ready to turn on. It's not today, it's when they're.
No, you're right. They have to actually build it
Yeah.
and then come and say, can we please have water?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And
this
then-
is a tool that lets us know how
Yeah.
much water is going into that home now. So
Right.
we'll know.
The only thing, Vice Chair, is that it evaluates our ability to treat and process the water, but it doesn't really evaluate if there's no water down there.
Yeah.
So it's more about, our
Having an
mechanical
existing
systems and how we can,
I'm optimistic.
you can ask Commissioner Sanders, he knows all that stuff already.
Well, actually, I do know a little bit about that. Actually, so if you use that tool to sort of evaluate the ability to treat and process and distribute the water, right? You can draw inputs from the actual wells that we have, and there is a scale that is based off of the water table, like how deep is the water, and based on that, it'll tell you how much water we can pump out of each one of these wells. And the way that they're set up is they're sort of staggered along the riverbed. So normally, we're not going to run 2 or 3 wells that are adjacent to each other. We'll skip over a couple on down the line, right? And so we can determine how much water we can actually pump based on the level of the well water while the pumps are running. So we can use that as an input maybe to the tool in order to sort of figure out how much we can actually,
Yeah.
right? Although I think in the 5-year CIP, there is a plan for an additional contact tank, right? A CT tank, which is, I think is a 750,000 gallon one. So right now we only have one. And so if we had an additional 750,000 gallons, that would allow us to sort of turn those wells off more often or stagger them out even more once the tank levels are, mostly full. And instead of maybe running 3 wells during the middle of the day, maybe only run 2 wells and allow those tank levels to sort of draw down during the day and then recover at night.
So if we got some good open space on a hill and we had a grant that paid for a 750,000 tank.
No, that's not what I'm talking about though. But yeah, something like that, right? Yeah.
Wasn't part of the plan that Darren had laid out for us, weren't we getting another tank?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's in the five-year
Okay,
plan.
yeah. Okay.
At the water.
You said it like hypothetically, so I was like, all right.
No, yeah, so in the five-year plan, I think we're in year one or one. So sometime in the next 4 years, maybe, the plan is at least to install a second tank there. There's room for it. There were some existing tanks that were demoed a number of years ago, and all of the underground piping is already in place. So we just have to actually pour the pad, build the tank, probably a bolt together. And, that will go a long way. Right.
Any other direction to staff?
When you were just talking about all the grants and the different money, I'll ask the question that probably at least half the residents want to know. Dog park, is there any progress on the dog park? I know it's talked about all the time. I know
There
it's a
is.
sore subject, but people want
I'll
to
just-
know.
All I'm going to say is there is some, I consider to be pretty significant and some decent progress. I don't want to say where or what,
Sure.
but it's being discussed.
My
And
backyard.
Not everybody has that luxury.
But you all can come over.
Bring my dog to your house and let him shit in your, excuse me, walk my dog in your backyard.
Just bring your doggy bag.
Wilson Winery turning into an indoor dog park.
There.
Any other direction to staff? Hearing none, I will adjourn to the next regular meeting on Tuesday, June 7th, 2022.